My wife tried to explain after walking out of another man's hotel room. It's not what you think, just a conversation. That conversation ended everything and destroyed both their lives. In room 512, under the glow of a corporate gala, I heard her laughter from behind the door. It was not for me, it was for him. And in that instant I knew that my life would never be the same again. My name is Javier, I am 34 years old, and that night at the Grand Via Hotel in Madrid changed everything. The company gala was at its peak with laughter, glasses of cava, and the murmur of conversations about quarterly goals. I was there for Lucia, my wife of 6 years, the woman who always stole glances with her effortless charm. We had planned a special night after the event, but something in her evasive gaze during dinner made me hesitate. Go to the room, Javi. I need to talk to Marco about the Valencia project, she told me with that smile that used to disarm me. I nodded, although something in my chest tightened. I went up to the 5th floor, room 512, looking for her charger as she had asked me. But the door was ajar. The light was off, although I had left it on. Then I heard it. A confident, masculine whisper, followed by Lucia's laughter. It was not the laughter we shared at home. It was intimate, laden with something that chilled my blood. I stood paralyzed in the hallway. I did not scream. I did not go in. I just listened with my heart pounding in my ears. 30 seconds. It was enough. Her voice, flirtatious, without remorse, floated from the room. Then, quick footsteps. I hid behind a corner just as the door opened. Lucia came out, adjusting her dress with her hair disheveled and her phone in her hand. She did not see me until I said her name. Javier. Her body tensed. The phone fell to the floor. I thought you were downstairs, she stammered. I did not respond. I stared at her, and then she did the unthinkable. She reached out her hand to me, with tears forming in her eyes. Javi, please. I moved closer. My voice was barely a whisper. No, not after this. I did not wait for explanations. I went down the stairs, leaving behind the echo of the music and laughter from the gala. In the lobby, I ordered a sparkling water at the bar, trying not to tremble. People passed by, oblivious to my crumbling world. A colleague of Lucia's, I think his name was Diego, patted me on the back. What a party, huh? I nodded silently. Her perfume, mixed with another scent that was not mine, still burned in my throat. I sat in an armchair, looking at my wedding ring as if it were a strange object. Then I saw her. Lucia came down to the lobby, looking for me. She walked towards me with that feigned calm she used when she wanted to erase a mistake. Javi, can we talk? I did not move. We already talked, I said in a voice I did not recognize. She knelt beside me, whispering, it is not what it seems. It was a mistake. I had too much to drink. A mistake, I repeated, my tone sharper than I expected. Did you take Marcos to our room by mistake? She looked down, biting her lip. It was not planned, she murmured. I did not respond. I stood up and walked towards the elevator, not towards 512, but to any other place. I did not know where I was going, but I knew I could not go back to her. In the 5th floor hallway, I heard his voice again. Not Lucia's, but Marcos's in room 514. He was talking on the phone with that arrogance that always bothered me. She will come back. She always does, he said. The guy left. He looked like a beaten dog. Every word was a punch. It was not the first time. It was not a mistake. It was a pattern. I went down to the garage, sat on the cold floor between two pillars, and let the rage and shame mix until I did not know which was which. My phone vibrated. Messages from Lucia. Please, come back. I am alone in the room. I swear, it is not what it seems. I turned off the phone. I did not want her words. I wanted the truth, although I had already heard it in the hallway. I returned to room 512. Not because I believed her, but because I needed to look her in the eyes and see how far her lie would go. I found her sitting on the bed, barefoot, with red eyes. Javier, thank God. The following days at Miguel's house were a silent whirlwind. I would wake up on his sofa with the echo of Lucia's laughter still resonating in my head, but I did not answer her messages. I turned off the notifications and saved her texts in a folder I never opened. I did not want her words. I wanted to understand how we got to this. On the 3rd day, while having breakfast with Miguel, he confessed something that left me cold. Lucia talked to Mom yesterday, he said, stirring his coffee. She told her that you are exaggerating, that it was a misunderstanding, that Marco was just helping her with a work matter. I let out a bitter laugh. A work matter in our room at midnight? Miguel looked at me seriously. Javi, it is not just Mom. She is talking to everyone. She says you are having a crisis, that you saw things that were not there. I remained silent, squeezing the cup until my knuckles turned pale. Lucia was not just denying what happened. She was building a narrative to save herself. That afternoon, I received an email from her. Subject, please read this. It was not an apology. It was a cold text, like a corporate report, detailing her version of the events. According to her, it was a brief, inappropriate exchange that I had misinterpreted. It proposed next steps such as therapy, a temporary separation, and mediation, with not a word of remorse, only strategy. I did not respond. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Diego, a university friend who did not ask unnecessary questions. This is useful, he said. It shows her intention to control the narrative. But we need more. I did not know what he was referring to until that night, when I received a message from Clara, a colleague of Lucia's at the company. Javier, we have to talk. I cannot stay silent anymore. We met in a cafe in Malasana, a noisy place where no one would pay attention. Clara was direct. Lucia and Marcos have been like this for months. It started at the convention in Barcelona last year. Everyone knew, except you. She showed me screenshots of messages in a work group where they joked about their private meetings. I felt the ground shake, but I remained calm. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Clara sighed. Because Lucia is telling everyone that you made it all up, that you are unstable. It is not fair. I thanked her and returned to Miguel's house with a new weight on my chest. It was not just the betrayal. It was Lucia's effort to erase the truth. That night, while I stared at the ceiling, I made a decision. I would not let her false story win. I called Diego and asked him to gather evidence. If she wants to play this game, let it be in a courtroom, I said. The next day, Lucia changed tactics. Instead of pleading messages, she sent me a dry one. We have to talk in person. For us. I agreed, not out of hope, but because I wanted to see how far she would go. We met in a park near the Manzanares at sunset. She arrived with a rehearsed calm, as if this were a business meeting. Javi, thank you for coming, she said. I did not respond. What you saw was not what you think, she began. I was drunk. Marcos took advantage of the situation. I tried to stop him. I interrupted her. So, why did you tell Mom that I imagined it all? Why does Clara have messages that prove this has been going on for months? Her face hardened. She is taking things out of context, she said, raising her voice. I am not the villain here. You have always been distant, Javi. If you had paid more attention to me, I would not have looked for someone else. Her words were like a knife. Not only did she betray me, but she was blaming me. I moved closer. My voice was low, but firm. I am not the one who brought another man to our room. I am not the one who lies to everyone to save herself. This is not my fault. Lucia, for the first time, had no answer. Her eyes shone, but not with tears, but with frustration. I turned around and left, leaving her in the park. That night, Clara sent me more evidence. Emails from Lucia and Marcos confirming appointments outside the office. Diego assured me that with this, the divorce would be clear. She has no defense, he said. But it was not just the divorce I was seeking. It was my dignity. Lucia had tried to paint me as the problem, but the truth always finds a way. And I was ready to make sure that it did. Joe, getting up, I raised a hand. Sit down. She obeyed. Tell me the truth, I said, for once. She hesitated. It was not as much as you think, she began. Did he touch you? I asked. Yes, she admitted quickly. Then she added, but it was not. It was the first time, I interrupted. Her silence was the answer. I kept looking at her as if I were seeing a stranger. You made a choice, Lucia, and it was not me. I walked out without looking back. I drove to my brother Miguel's house on the outskirts of Madrid. He did not ask questions. He just gave me a beer and a sofa. That night, as the silence of his house enveloped me, I knew that I had not only lost Lucia. I had lost the version of myself that believed love was enough to sustain everything. But I also knew something else. I would not let that night define my future. The week after the encounter in the park, Lucia's silence was deafening. No more messages, no more emails. I thought that maybe she had accepted reality, but I knew her too well. Her silence was not surrender. It was a pause to recalculate. Meanwhile, I was preparing myself. Diego, my lawyer, already had Clara's evidence. Emails, messages, even an itinerary from a work trip to Seville where Lucia and Marcos shared a hotel. Each document was a nail in the coffin of her lie. One morning, while having coffee with Miguel, my phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice was trembling. Lucia came to the house yesterday. She said you are destroying everything over a misunderstanding, that you want to divorce her without giving her a chance. I felt the rage rise in my throat. Mom, it is not a misunderstanding. I have proof. She is not telling you the truth. There was a long silence. Javier, I do not know what to think. She has always been so sweet. I hung up, frustrated. Lucia was not just manipulating strangers, but my own family. That afternoon I received an unexpected message from Berta, Lucia's sister. Javi, we have to talk. I do not believe what she is saying. We met in a bar in Chueca. Berta was direct. Lucia told me that you exaggerated everything, that Marco was just a one-night mistake. But I know that is not true. She has been with him for months. I saw it on her phone weeks ago. She showed me a photo she had taken secretly, a message from Marcos to Lucia saying, I cannot wait to see you in Bilbao. It was from 2 months ago. Why did you not tell me sooner? I asked. Berta looked down. Because I wanted to believe that she would change, that she would choose you. But she is out of control. I thanked her and asked her to send the photo to Diego. This was not just about the divorce anymore. It was about making sure that Lucia could not continue to distort the truth. Days later, Diego called me. We have enough for the judge to see her pattern of behavior, but there is more. I found company expense records. Lucia and Marcos used corporate funds for their trips. I was speechless. Diego suggested sending an anonymous report to the company. It is risky, but legal. It could force her to face consequences. I thought about it all night. I did not want revenge, but I did want justice. I gave the go-ahead. A week later, the company opened an investigation. Clara told me that Lucia was called to a meeting with Human Resources. They did not fire her, but they suspended her temporarily while they reviewed the expenses. Marcos, for his part, was transferred to another office in Barcelona. The news spread like wildfire. Lucia tried to contact me that same night. A message, Javi, this is too much. How could you do this to me? I did not respond. She had crossed lines that she could not uncross, and now she was facing the consequences of her decisions. But not everything was so simple. One night, while having dinner with Miguel and his wife, Elena, I received an email from a stranger. It was a colleague of Lucia's, Ines, who worked on the same team. Javier, I do not know if you are doing the right thing. Lucia is devastated. She says you are ruining her life over something that was not that serious. I felt a pang of doubt. Was I going too far? But then I remembered Marcos's words at the hotel. She always comes back. It was not a mistake, it was a repeated choice. I called Diego and told him about the email. It is an attempt at manipulation, he said. She is losing control of the narrative and is looking for allies. He advised me to stay the course. The next day, Berta called me again. Lucia knows about the investigation. She is furious, but also scared. I think for the first time she understands that she cannot get out of this with pretty words. That night, sitting on Miguel's sofa, I felt something new. It was not peace, but it was not rage either. It was clarity. I had gone from being the man who heard a laugh behind a door to someone who was defending his truth. Lucia could continue to weave her story, but I had evidence, witnesses, and the strength not to be dragged down by her lies. For the first time in months, I knew I was taking control of my life. The investigation at Lucia's company marked a turning point. Her suspension left her in a vulnerable position, and for the first time her messages stopped being calculated. I received an email from her at midnight. No subject, just a block of text. Javi, I do not know how we got to this point. I never wanted to hurt you. Can we fix this, please? There were no excuses or blame towards me, just a raw plea. But I did not respond. Her words no longer had the power to move me. Days later, my lawyer, Diego, summoned me to his office. The company finished its investigation. They confirmed that Lucia and Marcos used corporate funds for personal trips. She received a formal reprimand and a fine. Marcos was fired. I felt a cold relief, not for revenge, but because the truth was coming to light. Diego added, "This strengthens our case in the divorce." Her credibility is on the floor. I nodded, but in my mind I only saw the door of room 512, her laughter, her hand extended towards me as if nothing had happened. That same week, Lucia tried a new approach. She called me from an unknown number. I did not answer, but she left a voicemail. Javier, I know I made a mistake, but I cannot lose you. I want to tell you everything, without lies. Her voice trembled, but I no longer trusted her tears. I deleted the message. However, her insistence did not end there. The next day, she appeared at Miguel's house. I was not there, but Elena, his wife, told me everything. Lucia arrived with red eyes, asking for a chance to talk. Elena was firm. Javi is not ready. Respect his space. Lucia left without protest, but she left a note in the mailbox. I will not give up on us. I read the note and threw it away. Not because I was furious, but because we no longer existed. But her persistence was beginning to wear me out. I spoke with Berta, her sister, to understand what Lucia was after. She is desperate, Berta said. She knows she has lost control. The company is watching her, her friends are whispering, and Mom no longer defends her like before. Berta confessed that Lucia had admitted part of the truth to her. The relationship with Marcos had been going on for almost a year. She never thought you would find out, she added. That revelation hit me, but it also freed me. For months I had doubted myself, wondering if I had exaggerated, if I could have saved her. Now I knew I could not. She had chosen that path long before the gala. I decided it was time to close that door forever. I called Diego and asked him to speed up the divorce process. I want it to be over before she tries anything else, I said. But Lucia did not give up. One afternoon, while walking through El Retiro, I ran into her by chance. I knew it was not a coincidence. She knew my routines. Javi, just 5 minutes, she begged. I agreed, not for her, but to make it clear that there was no going back. We sat on a bench. I admit I did it wrong, she said. It was a mistake, but it does not mean I do not love you. We can rebuild. I looked at her intently. Rebuild what? The lie I lived for a year, or the one you tried to sell to everyone? She tried to interrupt, but I raised my voice. You betrayed me, Lucia, and then you tried to make me look like the crazy one. There is no us after that. For the first time, she had no answer. Her hands trembled, but she did not cry. She just nodded as if she finally understood. I stood up and left, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. Days later, Diego called me with news. Lucia had signed the divorce papers without a fight. I think she knows she has no way out, he said. He also told me that the company had offered Lucia a transfer to an office in Malaga, probably to avoid more scandals. She accepted. It was her way of running away, but I did not care. She would face the consequences, not with dramatic punishments, but with the loneliness of her choices. That night, sitting with Miguel and Elena, we toasted with cheap wine. We were not celebrating her downfall, but my freedom. For the first time in months, I laughed without it hurting. I knew the road ahead would not be easy, but I was no longer trapped in the echo of room 512. I had chosen to move on, and that was enough. With the divorce papers signed, the silence in my life changed its tone. It was not the heavy emptiness of the days following the gala, but an open space, like a blank page. Lucia moved to Malaga and, with her departure, the calls, messages, and notes ceased. There were no more attempts to rewrite history. For the first time, I felt that the chapter with her was truly closed. I settled in a small apartment in Lavapiés, a modest but my own place. The mornings no longer began with the echo of her laughter or the weight of her lies. Instead, I woke up to the noise of the street and the aroma of coffee that I prepared without rushing. Miguel and Elena helped me move, and, although they did not say it, their looks showed relief. You are different, Javi, Elena said one afternoon. Like you have gone back to being yourself. I did not know how to respond, but her words resonated. I had spent so much time holding on to a broken version of my life that I had forgotten who I was before. One afternoon, while I was walking through the San Fernando market, I met Sofia. It was not a movie moment, just a casual encounter. She was buying oranges and dropped one that rolled to my feet. I picked it up, joked about her aim, and we ended up chatting about tortilla recipes. Sofia was not trying to impress, and that disarmed me. She spoke with an honesty that I had not felt in years, without second intentions. We exchanged numbers, and, days later, we went out for a vermouth on a terrace in La Latina. I did not tell her everything immediately. I did not want to burden her with my past, but over time I shared the essentials. Sophia listened without judging, without trying to fix me. "It sounds like you came out of a storm," she said once. "And you are still standing. That is not a small thing." Her words gave me something I did not expect: permission to heal without rushing. Meanwhile, I received news of Lucia through Berta. She was not doing well. The move to Malaga was not the new beginning she had hoped for. She lost the trust of her colleagues, and her reputation in the company was still damaged. Berta said that Lucia had started therapy, not because she wanted to change, but because she had no other choice. "I think she is starting to understand what she lost," she added. I did not feel satisfaction, only a strange calm. Her downfall was not my victory. My victory was moving forward. Diego kept me informed of the last legal details. The divorce was finalized without complications and the assets were divided fairly. I did not seek more proof or revenge. The consequences of her actions had already caught up with her: the suspension, the transfer, the loss of relationships that used to matter to her. My focus was on rebuilding myself, not on destroying her. One day, while walking with Sophia through the Temple of Dibad, she asked me what I wanted from the future. I stopped, looking at the reflection of the water at sunset. "I want days that do not hurt," I said, "and someone who does not make me doubt myself." She smiled, not with empty promises, but with a warmth that made me feel seen. We were not in love, not yet, but there was a spark of possibility, something honest that did not need to be forced. Months later, I adopted a dog, a scruffy mutt I named Max. He would follow me around the apartment, snoring on the sofa while I read or worked. His presence filled the voids that anxiety used to occupy. I also started painting again, something I had abandoned when I was with Lucia. They were not masterpieces, but each brushstroke was a reminder that I could create something new, something of my own. The night of the gala in room 512 seemed distant, like a dream that did not quite fade away, but it no longer defined me. I had learned that betrayal does not break you unless you let it. Lucia tried to rewrite my story, but I took control. I chose the truth, not only about what happened, but about who I wanted to be. And when I think about that night, about her hand extended towards me, I remember my words: "No, not after this." They were the first step towards my freedom. Today I walk through Madrid with Max by my side, with Sophia sending me a message about where to have dinner, and with the certainty that the past does not haunt me. Life is not perfect, but it is mine.